Okay, it has been a hot minute, gonna lie. Hopefully, it's still gonna be good. Message 12, Learning to be alone. Welcome back. Um, Hopefully, you guys have enjoyed your month-long break, and I am so excited to be back from my holidays and just, yeah, back doing podcasting again. So, before I start this episode, I am just gonna apologize quickly. I have slightly lost my voice, so I do sound a bit different than normal. Hopefully, it comes back before next week, so I actually sound normal again. But yeah, my voice is not the best at the moment, but I still wanted to get something out since this is the first episode after a month. So yeah, let's just get straight into it. So obviously, like I'm an only child. I've talked about this before, and I think part of being an only child, if you are one, you'll know what I'm talking about. But if you don't, part of being an only child is that you are like literally always bored, especially when you're younger, when like you have to ask your parents to organize hangouts for you because you can't do it yourself and like you need all the permission and all that. So it takes ages to organize and you can't hang out with your friends every single week. So a lot of the time you are bored and like because your parents will always be chatting or they'll be doing something, at least mine always are. So then I was often in my bedroom. Back then I would like play with my toys. Now it's a bit more I will be on my like laptop watching Netflix or something like that. And like it's honestly not the most fun, especially when like I don't know, just like I'm taking a road trip. A lot of the time I will literally be staring out the window and I would ask like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? And are we there yet? And I definitely wished, and even now I still sometimes do wish I had a sibling because then like even if we were fighting, at least I'd have something to do. Or like I'd have someone to talk to that weren't my parents and someone who was my age. So I do think those are the benefits of having a sibling and being an only child. It definitely is a lot easier to see. So essentially, like all my life, I have grown up in that sense of being alone, and I've had to learn to accept it as well as enjoy it, especially like when I was younger, it was like I had to accept it even though it was so hard for me. And even then, I don't really think I accepted the benefit of being an only child and being alone until recently. So, and then also just in this past like school term, I really was striving to get better grades in all my subjects. So, as a result of that, I was studying more, which consequently just led me not to hang out with my friends, which I never wanted, but it just happened. But I got what I wanted, so I'm not entirely mad because yes, I had to sacrifice something, but I achieved my goal. So it wasn't the worst thing in the world. But because I was doing that, I was left alone with my thoughts for like 24/7. Because, well, maybe not 24/7. Let's just like take a couple hours off, ignoring sleeping. I will ignore that, but like take a couple hours off, like just for like chatting with my parents or like my best friend over the phone. But that was kind of it. I didn't have much of a social life. So definitely when I was going through it, because like studying intensely, I would do like maybe like 4 hours on a weekday and around like six, sorry I have to say it, but 6 7 hours on a weekend. Like I was studying a lot, and when you're doing something so strenuous for so long, you get caught up in your head. Especially like for me, I was doing a lot of maths, and when you get problem after problem after problem wrong, you start doubting yourself. And they definitely weren't like the best thoughts to sit with for a long period of time. And it was really hard just to even just sit with those thoughts, especially like at night, because I would have nothing on my mind except trying to sleep. So I would just have a bunch of thoughts just coming into my head, like from the whole day, from like previous weeks, like just random thoughts. And a lot of them were not positive, I would say. They were like about my studying and just about like, oh, I'm really not going to do well because in the past I had issues where I felt like I put so much effort, but I never really got rewarded back. And then I was scared that all the effort I was trying to put in wouldn't be rewarded back, but it was obviously. But obviously, I didn't know that. Like, past me didn't know that. So I was just left with those thoughts, and it affected the way I slept, but just in general, it just affected me, I guess. And it was very uncomfortable that way to be alone. But it's not like I could do anything else if I wanted to achieve my goal of trying to get better grades. And that way, I do know I'm not the only person in the same boat who has, like, A, neglected their social life for studying, but B, being stuck with their thoughts that they aren't necessarily comfortable with because they actually have to think about it and process it. So, yeah, I definitely didn't accept being alone during this time period, and I had before, so definitely interesting for me to not like being alone. And then probably after the assessment period, I had a lot more time to just reflect on my life instead of just studying. And that was when I just learnt to, I guess, embrace my thoughts and just acknowledge them, but not like do anything about it. And this, like, that was actually really hard, and it didn't happen overnight, and it didn't just happen because I let myself do it. I had to work through it. Like, honestly, this is something I have worked through for years. Like, I know I'm just using recently as an example with being alone because I've had to study, but I think, like, just in general, everyone's always so caught up in their thoughts, and I realized this. So I ended up getting a bit of help with that, just not like a therapist, but I went to a program and they helped me, like, learn to clear my thoughts. I was also talking to my parents on how to do it a bit. So part of that actually was doing not meditation, but breath work. And honestly, one of the best things I have learnt to do. And I think what it helps is actually knowing the effects for me. That makes me feel encouraged to do it because when I know that it has a good effect on me and I know why and how, then I feel more motivated to do it. And by doing breath work, it helped, like, clear my mind. And that part really helped with just learning to be okay to be alone because my mind was empty. So I could not just, like, I could A, leave it empty and feel really calm, or B, I could fill it up with positive stuff later on. So the breath work I do specifically is Wim Hof, and I won't do this on a daily basis. I probably should, but I honestly don't. But I do it whenever, like, I'm really stressed or like the day of an exam, like in that morning. And it probably takes me about 10 minutes. Like, it really isn't long, but the effects are, like, immediate, and it's so good. And this is not me, like, necessarily promoting. I would recommend, but I'm not going to promote it because I know breathwork really isn't for everyone, and it's not like a promotional ad kind of thing. This is just something I generally do, and I have seen the effects, like, both immediately and just, like, after a period of time, and it's really good. And I think this was one of the ways that I had learned to actually be with my thoughts and just comfortable with them. But I think the other part of becoming comfortable with my thoughts was actually having to experience the uncomfortable part because you can't become comfortable with something without being uncomfortable, if that makes sense. Like, I don't really know how to expand on it, but I guess I could probably use a bit of, like, an analogy, like an example. Like, I guess when you're learning to walk, like, obviously no one really remembers learning to walk, but, like, walking was a foreign thing when we were younger. Like, we would, like, wobble on our legs, we try to hold on to things, and now we just do it as second nature because we got comfortable with it. But we wouldn't have been able to actually be comfortable without progressing to getting comfortable. So I think with that, like, I guess it's like a comfort zone thing. We have to, like, to be comfortable with something, we have to actually get out of our comfort zone and not validate the fear. I don't know what the, like, negation of validate is. So not validate the fear, and that way it becomes smaller. And by it becoming smaller, it becomes more comfortable for us. I think that's probably the best way to put that. And by doing the breath work, it helped me feel more comfortable. And then it allowed me to introduce the uncomfortable things and get comfortable with them because I associated breath work with like comfort. So when I'd introduce something comfortable, I'd be like, oh, I did this, so I should be comfortable with it. So it's like kind of a trick on the mind, but it worked out really well. And while I haven't necessarily learned to enjoy being alone yet, it's still like a journey, obviously. But I do think just learning to be with your thoughts and embracing them that they are thoughts, but also being able to ignore those negative thoughts is like 75% of the way there. So, honestly, if you feel like you are just struggling being with your thoughts and not being able to actually just get off a device and just like sit down and like actually not do anything, like I guess doing reading or craft or just something like that, like anything but being on your phone is okay. But honestly, I feel like it's sometimes better just to be able to sit down by yourself because that is when you truly enjoy to be alone. And why I'm saying like not being on any technology is because you just get instant gratification from technology. So you are essentially distracting yourself from being able to understand and feel your thoughts. And that's like technology's like it does that instantly. Like it's designed to keep you entertained, to keep you glued on the screen. And like even other things like I'm just a bit more of an indoor person, so I do a bit more like reading and crafting and all that. So even that distracts me that way, but it's a lot more calm and quieter, so I'm left with my thoughts. And I also do a bit of sport, not too much. But even like then, like I will still be with my thoughts, but I also be thinking about other things relating to that. So just literally sitting down, lying down, doing like just looking up at like or looking staring at like a blank piece of wall. Like don't stare at anything that could be distracting. So that's why I just say a wall because that's the least distracting thing that I can think of for me. That just lets you just think about your thoughts. And I think by doing that for me, that has been the most rewarding thing ever. Because, like, especially at night, like, once I get off my phone, I know it's not the best habit to have my phone, like, be on my phone just before I go to bed. But just like taking like 5 to 15 minutes, just looking up at the wall and just thinking about life, that has allowed me to actually be comfortable with being in my thoughts because I restricted myself from getting my phone and I'm like, I need to sleep. So I need to be away from my phone. And the only thing that will help me sleep is me calming down and just being with my thoughts and accepting them. So I have had to like obviously work on it a bit with breath work, but I've also done it naturally and not like had to put in any effort with just like trying to sleep. So there are multiple ways to do it. Like the quickest way I find doing it is doing breath work. But if like just staring up at the wall while trying to sleep, or just like in the middle of your studying, so like during a break, if that's the way you learn to accept being alone, then I think just go with that. And there is like, it's important to learn how to be alone because you're not going to have like, as grim as this sounds, you are kind of the only person you can depend on. Like, obviously, you can trust others and all that. And I guess to some extent you can depend on them. But at the end of the day, you are with yourself. Other people in your life are other people in your life who you don't see 24 hours a day. Like even your parents, you don't see them 24 hours a day because you're sleeping and you're in your room by yourself or you're wherever by yourself or you're with your friends. You are the only person that you are with for 24 hours for 7 days a week for your whole life. So just being able to not always having to look for someone or something to gravitate towards just so you don't feel uncomfortable with being alone is probably honestly one of the best things you can learn in life. And with this obviously being designed for people like me, just normal teenagers going through life, being able to accept and enjoy being alone is one of the best things you can have when you have your whole life ahead of you, because then you're not always just depending on someone for something and you can do things by yourself. So I guess that way, by learning to enjoy being alone, you are also gaining your own independence even further, which I honestly think is one of the best things, especially like just for like me, I have always been such an independent person and I've loved being independent. And I think through my independence is part of the way I have learned to embrace being alone. So while it has been a journey to enjoy or at least be comfortable with being alone, it's probably honestly one of the best gifts I have given myself, because now I feel like I can do so many things. And it's honestly, it just makes me feel so much better knowing I can be alone, especially when I'm an only child, because now I'm not always just going towards my parents or not gratifying, reaching towards something to keep me entertained. I know I can just be alone with my thoughts and just like sit, and that I'm okay with it. That is all for today. I feel like it is a bit of a shorter episode than usual, but we are finally back, and hopefully we'll be back for a while and I won't have to go on break anytime soon. Again, I do apologize for my voice. Hopefully it wasn't too bad. And I think it will be back next week as it doesn't feel too bad. So, yay for that. I will be back in my normal voice and you guys don't have to hear like my voice because I feel like it sounds a bit croaky. Uh of course, I will be back next week with a new episode on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and 10 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. So until then, make sure you follow me on Spotify or subscribe on YouTube. Also follow me on Instagram at Unsent Voice Memos Podcast. And until then, I'll see you guys next week. That honestly wasn't such a bad episode, and yeah, I really do enjoy being alone.